What's up, everybody? It's me, Erica, and this is going to be your Married to Medicine review. I know I'm super late. I didn't even realize it came on Sunday. Is today Wednesday already? I feel like the week is gone by. I guess because Monday was a holiday, right? So go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment. Let the diva know you stopped by. It is 6:30 in the morning, so she's a little tired. Okay. But I wanted to give you Married to Medicine. I did watch Real Housewives of New York last night, and I fell asleep, I guess, right at the good part, because I fell asleep right when they were, the model was coming, and they were outside with the model, and he was like, somebody has to take this off of me, or something like that. So that's where I fell asleep. So I know that it got good later, so please don't tell me about it. I heard about it, and I also heard that Ebony says she's taking a break. Baby, this might only have to be your only season. So we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. If you have to take a break mid-season, it's probably not the best job for you. You probably need to find something else. I'm just saying. So I don't know what happened. We'll talk about it tomorrow or later on. So Married to Medicine was good. It was actually a good episode. Um, we start off with Eugene and Cecil and Scott. They're down at in Cecil's bar. He's making drinks, and Eugene is saying how they need more couples dinners, which I think is a good idea. I think it's a good idea. I think they should do more couples dinners. They were like, we didn't know if how it was going to turn out. Um, Scott finally shows up, and they were talking about how Contessa and Toya are cool now because of what happened, which I don't think that's going to last for very long, if you want to be honest. But Scott tells us about this esthetician that he interviewed, and that she's bad and she looks good and this and that, and he shows the men the pictures and everything like that. And he was basically saying, like, if Contessa hire her, it would be different, but I won't be able to hire her. And I'm like, you can't hire somebody who's attractive. I don't know what's going on, but it's like, what a life to live, to feel like I can't even hire somebody who's attractive. In my experience, estheticians are typically nice looking people. I don't think you can get too far with an ugly esthetician. I'm sorry, or somebody who's not attractive. You working with the face, honey, with the skin, honey. You gotta look nice. So I don't know what he's talking about. I was just like, whatever, Scott. They asked Scott how did he like the couple's dinner, and he said he liked it, and that um, he does walk out sometimes when they're arguing. So I like the fact that the men were there, just kind of telling Scott. I love that Cecil told Scott, that's not the message that you want to send. That's not the message that you want to send. Um, and he told him, you got to fix that. You got to fix that shit. Um, he says the military comes out when it's, when they're, I guess, when they're arguing or whatever, and he has to leave. He has to walk out. He has to leave. And then they said, what, the women have to keep the men in order. It's so crazy. How do the women have to keep the men in order, but the men are supposed to be the leaders? So Cecil said, which I think I've learned it too. I think a lot of people learn it when you start learning healthier ways to have conflict or to communicate with other people. You realize that the goal is not to win. The goal is to understand where the other person is coming from, and hopefully the person understands where you're coming from. You don't always have to agree, but the goal is not to win. And I've had that problem. I'm sure a lot of you had that problem, going back and forth with your partner or anybody you're in a relationship with. When you get into a fight, you act like you have to win the fight. Y'all keep asking me about my tea that I'm drinking. Several of you asked me about the tea that I was drinking. It's just classic chai tea with with honey and a little creamer, and that's it. And it's good because chai is good. And so chai with honey tastes really good. So that's what I'm drinking this morning, in case anybody else asks. So I felt what Cecil was saying. He was like, ever since I stopped fighting to win, that has changed my life. And I think so many men, when they are arguing, they feel like they have to win. And I learned a lot of how to deal with conflict um, when I used to go back and forth with my dad. It was always very much so I had to win the argument. I had to win. I had so and I feel like that's how a lot of my family communicates with each other. And I learned that. So I definitely took that into my relationships, right? Because your first relationships are your family, and you learn how to deal with other people based on how you deal with your people in your family, your caregivers, your parents, your guardians, and all of that. So I learned that too, and I had to unlearn that you don't have to win. You don't have to win. And I unlearned that too also in communicating with people online. You don't have to win. I don't have to win. You have the way that you feel about it. I have the way that I feel about it. I'm not trying to get you to feel how I feel, and please don't try to get me to feel how you feel, especially if your shit is fucked up and it don't align with shit I got going on over here. So that's how I feel about that. I love that Cecil told Scott, you got to fix that shit because that's not the message that we're trying to send. So that is an example of men holding each other accountable, and I love to see it, and I especially love to see it coming from black men. I love it. I'm so tired of seeing black men allow each other to just be the worst versions of themselves. It's like, why wouldn't you want your brother to be the best version of himself, and in that hold him accountable for his inactions and his actions, and when he acts a damn fool? Why? So I love that scene happened. I was here for it. All right. So hold on. Let me turn off this. Siri. Hey Siri. Turn off the low power mode.
Okay. I turned low power mode.
Okay, thank you. Okay, because I ain't got time for this shit. Okay. So now we're at Anila's house, right? And Anila's going through her house with her housekeeper. I forget the lady's name, but she asked her, was she happy? Was she happy with her house? Are you happy now? She was like, yeah, I feel like I've accomplished something. And then her housekeeper mentions that her daughter said the other day that she wanted to have blue eyes and blonde hair. And when I heard that, when I tell you, I got so mad. I got so mad. Because just like on Beverly Hills, it's like, we, black people, we know the things that, we know how we experience whiteness and the violence of whiteness throughout generations and over and over and over again. And you know that the colonized mind and that culture of colonization has spread like a cancer all over the globe. And when you see other people of color experiencing that terrorism, where their children are like, I want to look like a white person, and it's just like, ugh. When they showed that scene with her daughter, when I tell you I was boo-hooing crying, I was crying because I'm like, look at the illusion of white supremacy and how quickly it can get into the mind of a child. For that child to think that she does not even want her skin color. She doesn't want her skin color. She doesn't want her color eyes. She doesn't want her dark brown hair. She doesn't want any of that because she thinks that blonde hair and blue eyes are pretty. Oh, I was like, oh my God. I was boo-hooing in here when Anila was talking to her daughter. And it's like you realize and you see other people are affected by that as well. We're not the only ones. We're not the only ones. And I don't want to get into the oppression Olympics and none of that shit. But we're not the only ones who are victims to the illusion of white supremacy and that culture of colonization that they have spread like a cancer through this globe. And it affects so many people. And very, very early. Her daughter, I don't even think she is in elementary school yet. I think she's like a kindergartner or something like that. She looks little, like she's 6 or something like that. For her to feel like that so early, oh, I was done. I was done. And Anila shares with us that she was ashamed of who she was. She lived in this culture, she lived in this country, and she didn't like who she was. The kids made fun of her. She didn't like who she was. And now she's seeing it happening with her daughter, and she doesn't want it. And baby, that scene touched really touched my heart. Really touched my heart. We get in with Simone and Jackie. They're having lunch. They're back to having lunch together. Everybody says that it's fake. No, everybody says that they have not talked to each other since the season wrapped. They're not really cool. It's only for the cameras. So that's unfortunate and it's sad. And if you have to get to the point where you're doing stuff for the cameras, throw it away. Throw it away. So they're planning this town hall meeting, and Simone says that she asked Lisa to help her, but Lisa kind of took everything over. And she wanted to keep the momentum going from Washington, D.C., and that Lisa just started planning, and she told Lisa, it looks like you don't need any of my help. And she called Simone to ask her to be on a panel. And Simone is like, bitch, how the fuck you gonna ask me to be on a panel of a motherfucking event that it was my idea? How you asking me to be on the damn panel? Lisa ain't shit. So she's like, it's supposed to be a team effort. And then Jackie said to Simone, I guess Heavenly ain't that crazy, huh? Because Heavenly tried to tell y'all. See, it's a trip how when you don't like someone or when you don't take to someone, the things that they say to you, how you don't listen. And it's like, most people only listen to people or can take in from people that they like or something about the person that they respect, something. But if you don't like the person, you don't respect the person, you don't get along with the person, listening to Heavenly tell us about Lisa Nicole, everybody's like, girl, yeah, whatever, you just don't like her, you're a big bully and all this other stuff. But it turns out Lisa Nicole is a fucking fraud. She ain't shit. She don't know how to do business. She down there on the news. You got all these COVID tests and taking all these COVID tests, and they ain't got a lab to do the test to give the results. It's a mess. And that's what we're going to see next week, I guess. But yeah, so Heavenly ain't that crazy, huh? And that's the thing that I don't understand. If you saw, Simone didn't read her Yelp review. Simone, you saw what happened with Heavenly. So you think that Heavenly was not telling the truth. You thought she was being unreasonable because of it's Lisa. So you decide, I'm going to go ahead and work with Lisa. Now, I'm not going to lie. Lisa seems to have the connections. And the way that Heavenly, because I did watch Heavenly's live, and I didn't finish all of it, but she said the way that Lisa put on the flyer, special invited guests, not that they're confirmed, not that they coming, not that they showing up, but here's who we invited. And you could put special invited guests small and then put everybody's picture on there, and the people will think that Oprah and Charlamagne and all these people are coming, and they just have only been invited and have not confirmed if they're coming or not. So that's some shisty shit. Like, that's shisty. That's deceptive. I don't care. There's no way else that you can describe it. It's deceptive marketing. So that's what it is. And that seems to be how Lisa gets down. And what happens when you don't read the Yelp review, when you don't take somebody that you don't like, and they're telling you don't work with that person, and you don't like them, and you don't listen to that person, and then see what happens. So you got to learn the lesson yourself, I guess. So we're talking with Zachary and Heavenly. They are going to that house that Zachary got, that they're going to flip and turn into an Airbnb. He has it decorated like a bachelor pad with that big ass, ugly ass reclining couch that he was so proud of that couch. She was like, you like that couch? That's the kind of couch you want in here? And he was like, yeah, look, it do this. And then he leaned back in the chair and he was like, mm-hmm. He was so proud. I said, Zachary was proud of his recliner. That shit was so ugly. Oh, that shit was so ugly. Zachary, that's cute. Because he was like, and he's so cute. Like his eyes are smiling. Like he has smiling eyes. And then I think he has a dimple or something like that. But he looked just like Heavenly. He's cute though. I'm not saying Heavenly's not cute, but you know what I'm saying. He's cute. And he's like, go watch when he sits in that recliner and he sits it back. He's like, That was funny. Shout out to Zachary. So they're doing their Airbnb. Um, he tells Heavenly that she's been such a great mother, and we've been blessed to have you as a mother. And she's like, my goal is that you guys are okay, and I do all this stuff for you. And you can look at Heavenly and tell that she was serious. I don't know why this. You know what it is? I know what it is. The eyelash, the oil in my eyelashes. The oils in my in the hair on my eyelashes, it hits the glasses, and then it makes like a little mark, and I could see it. No matter how small it is, I could see it. Go gadget eyes. Anyways, so she says, I didn't have much growing up, but at the end of the day, life is all about family, and it doesn't matter how much money you have, your family is going to be there for you, and blah blah blah. And she was like, so what kind of woman you want? I said, I don't like when y'all ask kids that, because you don't know what they want. You don't know what they want. And assuming that they want a woman, or assuming that they want a man, I don't know. It's something that we just have to kind of unlearn about asking people questions like that without really knowing. Maybe she does know. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying nothing about Heavenly's kids. Anyways, so she was like, you want somebody like your mother, right? And he was like, yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm not going to start no shit with you, mama. So Contessa is talking to her life coach. And this is another thing. I just don't understand, again, this aversion to wanting to better yourself, not for yourself, but also for your partner. If you make yourself better for yourself, that in turn, that will overflow to the relationship that you have with other people. And it's like, Scott doesn't want to go. And it's like, why don't you want to better yourself? Do you really believe that how you're operating is from the best version of yourself? And why don't you think that there's no room for improvement? Like, when I tell you that idea that because you have something hanging in between your legs, you don't need help, nobody can tell you what to do, you know everything, that is the detriment of your self-development. It's thinking that no one else can teach you anything and that there's no problem. So kudos to Contessa for saying, if he's not gonna, I have to be better for myself. If he's not gonna be better for our marriage or whatever, like, I gotta be better for myself, and I'm all here for that. And it's like over and over again, we see women, single, married, divorced, widowed, taking steps to make themselves better, to make themselves better versions of themselves in order to be maybe suitable for partnership or not. But there's always this thing that women are always bettering themselves, and I guess the men don't think that they have to better themselves. It's so weird to me. I put, men don't think they need help or guidance because they know everything. That's going to be all y'all downfall. Like, when you find a man that understands that, hey, I have some things that I need to work on. People are not experiencing me in the way that I would like for them to experience me, and I want to do better. So let me find someone who knows and can help me with the tools or the resources so that I could be a better version of myself. But this idea that I don't need nobody telling me what to do, I don't need nobody. Okay, you're going to end up with a receding hairline back to here with a floppy, soft, soggy thing. That thing down there. What it is? She did that thing on me. Anyways, you're going to end up like that and alone and tired because don't nobody want to deal with no crotchety old ass man who thinks he knows everything. Don't nobody want to be around somebody like that. And it's a fact. And when you sitting there old and lonely in your recliner talking about and nobody else is around to enjoy your recliner because you ain't shit and you ain't worked on yourself, don't say nothing. Okay? So she says the emotional stuff is challenging for her. Although we do see Contessa cry, she just says the emotional things are hard for her, but her intentions are to get clarity, peace, and understanding. She said little Contessa was a middle child and that she didn't require that much. She tried to be the easy kid, tried not to get into people's way or anything like that. And she said when her mother got sick, her and her siblings took care of her mother. Her father was on drugs. He had his own demons, and so he wasn't there. And so that early on gave Contessa the feeling that she could not rely on anyone. See how things start like early, and then you wonder, like, and the trippy part about it is like every single person that you're in a relationship with. And when I say in relationship, I'm not talking about romantic. I'm talking about anyone you are relating to, no matter how long of the time, how short of the time. There are things that we learned how to cope and deal with people, and we learned it in childhood, and we're taking it all the way up to our adult relationships. And every single person has a different way of dealing with things. Every single person learned a different way of dealing with things, and now we have to learn how to relate to each other with these different ideas of how to fight, how to love, how to this, how to that, how to that. And so I think it's helpful to have another person say, hey, let me give you the tools to do this. This is the way you do it. This is how you can unlearn what you've learned, where you feel like you can't rely on anyone because when you were a little girl, nobody was there to help you with your sick mother. So she said, do you trust Scott with your heart? And Contessa paused, and she was like, that's a no. And she was like, well, how do you go back to somebody or get back into that groove with somebody who says that they were done with you? I was done with you. She says, I can't trust somebody who says that's something like that to me. What do you guys think about that? If you were in a relationship with somebody for any length of time, and they tell you that when you decided you wanted to go back and better yourself and go to school to increase your knowledge of whatever, that they were going to be done with you, how would you feel about that? I don't know. And then the woman asked, did you marry your dad? I think a lot of women, it might be the first one and they may get a divorce from that person, but I think a lot of women marry their dad. Or what the idea, if they had an absent father or a father who wasn't fully present and attuned, that they end up being in relationship with someone who they think their dad is, right? Let me tell you something. I have a journal that I was keeping until my son's father went through my journals, and I had stopped journaling for a very, 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 very long time after that, because he went through all of my journals and then tried to throw those things in my face. However, when I first met him, I wrote in my journal, I met somebody like my father, and the rose-colored glasses I had on, I was looking at this man with the same rose-colored lenses, and in all actuality and honesty, he turned out to be like my father. And it's crazy. And it's crazy that I experienced that person that my mom experienced. Not the same exact person, but my mom had it's like a generational thing. Like your mom had this experience with your father. You go out and marry somebody that you say reminds you of your father, and then you have the same type of abusive experience with somebody, and you really do, whether you think your father is a good man or not, the first man that you probably ended up with was probably like your dad. Whether you are still with him or not, was probably a lot like your dad, or what you think your dad is, or who you think your dad is, in terms of the idea of what you built in your mind about this man. Turned out I did same emotionally, verbally, physically abusive person. Crazy, isn't it? It's very crazy. So yes, she married her dad, and just because Scott is there and present, and just like she said, he doesn't do the drugs, but it's the same man. See? So she said to give yourself grace. And remember, we talked about that. I think we talked about that on Scotty's panel. We're talking about giving yourself grace and forgiving yourself and learning how to forgive yourself. I remember one of the first sessions in therapy was her telling me that to forgive myself because I'm so hard on myself. And Erica, how could you make this decision? And this decision changed your life, and da 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 and da da da. Forgive yourself, and then look at the experience as a way to gain wisdom, so that you are able to identify it when it comes up again, and that you're able to talk about it so other people who are experiencing can identify it too when you talk about it. We don't talk about it because we don't forgive ourselves. We feel shamed about having the experience and feel a little guilt. And so we don't talk about it. And then when we don't talk about it, we feel like we're alone. Other people who are experiencing feeling like they're alone. So that's why it's so important to actually speak about our experiences, because it helps other people. So we have to, in order to speak about those other experiences, we have to remove the shame, the guilt, and all of that stuff, so that people, our words can be healing for somebody else, and they're healing for ourselves in the process. So shout out to Contessa for doing the work. At Lisa Nicole's house, Lisa took the idea and ran with it. Now, when Heavenly comes in, Lisa Nicole has this measuring tape. She tries to hug Heavenly. Heavenly comes in like real aggressive, like, hey y'all, hey y'all. I'm like, why is she coming in like that? I didn't get it. I don't know what was happening. I didn't understand. I was like, why is she coming in like that? So she comes in, and I feel like, so she gets upset because she was like, I have a present for you in a Chanel bag. And it turned out to be a scale. But in a text message that Lisa showed, Heavenly said, we'll bring the scale out. So I feel like, Heavenly, if you set up a scene with Lisa via text message, why you didn't follow through with it when you got to her house? Why did you act like you didn't want to be bothered when you knew that what was going to happen? You didn't think she was going to bring out a scale when you said the next time we see each other, bring a scale out. So you decide to get upset and walk out and leave, and then say, I told y'all Lisa Nicole, don't work with Lisa Nicole. She don't do shit right. And Heavenly said that she was acting like that because she came there to be focused on voter registration. But at the same time, you and Lisa kind of talked about the scene before. So I don't understand how that happened. I would really like to understand how you set up a scene with somebody, and then when she's actually executing the idea, right, that you're now mad and walking away and you don't want the Chanel bag or anything like that. They go outside. Contessa comes out. I think it's this. Did Contessa come? Somebody came outside. Contessa's always running after somebody. Was it Contessa? I don't know who it was. But then Jackie and Toya start going off because Toya starts saying to Jackie that she doesn't say anything. And here's my thing. She doesn't say anything about Heavenly when Heavenly does. Heavenly is a grown-ass woman. The same way Eugene, your husband, said that he can't tell you nothing and he can't tell you how to act, is the same exact way Jackie can't tell Heavenly how to act. Nobody can tell anyone how to act. Y'all got to get out of that. Y'all got to get out of that. Nobody can tell your ass what to do, Toya. So why the fuck do you think Jackie can tell Heavenly what to do? Girl, that doesn't even make sense. And so why don't you check Heavenly? She called Heavenly a pit. Heavenly said they cut out her response. I said to myself, I said, why is she calling her a dog? Okay, now you not see, this is the thing about Toya. She's an Aries, so she's a baby, but she's me. Oh, woe is me. I'm the victim. I want to fight. I want to say things that now when it's time to come back to me, now I want to start crying. What she was saying to Jackie in the room was so fake and so phony and just so like, oh, you have to understand, I really looked up to her. You ain't never looked up to Heavenly, girl. Shut up. And I didn't know that Heavenly and Toya were friends like that. I knew that Damon and Eugene worked together because he was the head of the ER and Eugene came in through the ER, and I guess Eugene is the director over there or whatever. But I didn't know that Heavenly and Toya were so close. I didn't like the way Toya was talking to Jackie in the room. I thought it was so fake and phony. I was like, girl, give me a fucking break, because Toya, you like to get the shit started. Then you do your wham, baby, woe is me, victim, but you act like you're not participating in the shit. You're participating in the shit. You're not backing down. So to say that someone is a bully, how is she a bully when you're actively engaging with her? If she's such a bully, stop engaging, because she'll stop. Cuss her ass out one good time. She'll stop. The way she talks about my husband, all she says about your husband is Eugene is a lazy bitch's dream. And any man who works in the ER takes a day off of work and cooks your friends a meal, and barbecues and does all of that stuff, and you ain't got to do nothing. Is she wrong? So is that what you mean, that she's talking about your husband? What else is... I don't think Heavenly talks about Eugene. Actually, I think she respects Eugene. It's your ass that she does not respect. And that's just what it is. Anyway, so they have their conversation. They get it together. Stop thinking that other people can tell other people what to do or control other people's behavior. They can't. You can influence and be an influence on someone, but you cannot make someone change what they're doing or how they act or how they behave or how they interact or relate to other people. You just can't. Same way Eugene can't control your ass. That's what it is. Anyways, y'all, take care of each other. Protect your energy. Let's get down in the comments. Peace.